Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was awesome, guys. So first I want to start by congratulating you on your work in it. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me about it. Freya, I'm going to come to you first because I feel like every time we talk about these movies, we talk about human actors having to learn how to perform as apes, but you have like the flip side of it where you're a human actor having to play like the primitive form of a human. So just what was your way into that with Wes and figuring out this sort of unevolved version of a human that's living in the wild?
Well, I mean, she's not actually that, you know. She's so that was the layer of complexity that I had to figure out because she is pretending to be that. She's also pretending to be that without fully knowing what that is. So she's going off what other people have seen and what she's heard, what she would imagine it to be, and so. But then there's the element of that also from Wes's side. We have to also convince audiences for that chunk of the movie that she is feral. So it was about striking that balance. I think the main thing I lent on was having this kind of almost like deer in headlights to her to the way she kind of looks at the apes and looks at things and. The physicality being quite kind of like small and like in what word do you use, like a woodlouse. That's how I saw her, like a woodlouse, and then she sort of comes out of that. But the feral humans had a specific design of running, and you can very much see that she's still running like a human. So those like little Easter eggs where you go, okay, wait, something's off there. She's not matching up to them. So it was about striking a balance with that.
So you didn't have to spend 3 months just sleeping in the woods to figure it out.
I didn't, but I have to say it was scarily like close to what I was like as a child. I spent tons of time out in the woods just pretending to be a dog. So it was basically just tapping back into that. Also barefooted, so.
We can circle back to that in a bit. We've all been there,
we can unpack
right?
that.
Yeah. Peter, I felt like Rocco was like the heart of the film. Once your character comes into the film, I felt like it hit a whole new stride. I instantly became even more invested in what was going on in these characters. And Rocco's a very strong belief system in the history of Caesar and just what has become a politicized, it's something that's really fun to explore in the film. I don't want to talk too much about it, but in getting to know Rocco and present this character, did you find yourself almost avoiding what was in the previous films and getting too much knowledge about that because you wanted to present it as like a belief that this character has convinced himself of?
There was only so much that was actually useful in the other films, in that what Caesar was, what like apes shall not kill apes, apes together strong, apes and humans live side by side, because the idea that stories and fables tend to outlive the truth, like they tend to get morphed. The truth gets morphed into stories and fables as we tell them, down generation after generation after generation. So many generations, Caesar's legacy, the roots of what he was about is that's the only thing that I could honestly, when I would go back and watch the other films, I'm like, that's the only thing that Rocco would be privy to, is what survived, his manifesto, his philosophy. And so then sort of being like an archaeologist and unearthing human artifacts and different things and just piecemealing his own, story together. Like he does present a very specific or different, worldview from Noah and from Proximus, in that, he's aware that there are other clans out there. Proximus is aware that there's other clans out there. Noah is not. But, so he sort of falls in the middle of that, but he's still trying to figure it out himself. Like, no one really knows the truth of anything because it was so long ago. So they're kind of piecing it together. So that's what was useful. And then I had to sort of kind of make it all up, backstory-wise, and check in with the writers and with Wes to make it all sort of fall into some vague sense of order. And I think that at the end of the day, that's the best thing, because it leaves the audience with room to sort of think about and figure stuff out too. So, I mean, that's what we're all kind of doing, right? Is just kind of figuring it out as we're going, and like that's the truth. Is like we don't really know, and just sort of being in that space of wonder, for you know, like I said, he's an archaeologist, and he's like a child, and he's, you know, he's just enamored, and he's like a scientist. He conducts these experiments and does all these things, you know, and that's what we see.
Yeah.
You know, and I was just doing that. You know, I wasn't like trying to. It wasn't that kind of a build for this character.
Sure. Yeah, that's cool. But I think another thing we always talk about with these movies is the VFX. They always look so astonishingly good. I found it really interesting that there are several sequences involving water in this film. So when it came to like mocap and the dots and the gear and the rigs and all that in water, how did you guys, I would love to hear about the experience of bringing those sequences to life, like how technology had to change or evolve for those moments for you as a performer.
Well, they were, I know that like it was driving the Weta boys crazy, you know, because like some of the cameras, you know, they did everything they could do to protect the cameras from getting wet, but you know, there's only so much you could do. But then they build things like for that specific thing, and housing units for the cameras that are, you know, they didn't use them all the time. They switched up how they would shoot, like in the river scene with Raka. Like that was so much fun. It was like being in like a hot tub at Burning Man. Like it was like this big giant turbine thing that would make the water just crank out, you know. So I fell for you, darling, but like it was like,
I know, I had water shooting up my nostrils.
Upside down and like the whole thing, but you know, so like, and you're just in it again, like, and they just build it for you, like in the technology and like the set build and set, you know, the set design and pieces, they really make it easy for you to just do what they're asking you to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't have to do a whole lot of extra, you know, and the stunt team, the stunt coordinator, they're just like right in there with you, making it just so easy and safe, and we were just having fun. I mean, I would just literally hang out and float in the water between takes, because it was.
We became
you know,
like prunes that week.
Yeah, because it was like 3 days of just being in water.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like my skin was just like, you know, and it was warmer in the water than it was outside, so I would just hang out in the water and stay there. So they made it easy for us, you know, like the technology really makes it easy for us to, you know, to actualize these worlds and like these impossible worlds to come to life.
Looked phenomenal. Looked so cool. It sounds like you guys had fun making it. That's awesome. At Comic Book, we're huge fans of your work outside of the Apes franchise as well. So I have a couple questions I'd love to throw at you both real quick, one for each of you. Freya first, I would love to hear about the experience going back to work on Witcher, how that's going, what it's like working with Liam now, if you could say anything.
He's lovely, really, really sweet, really, you know, grounded person. And I was dreading it for a while, if I'm honest, but now I'm on it, and we have, thank God, a great director starting us off, which has made it so much fun. My storyline is there's so much great stuff to play. I'm actually quite happy. Yeah.
Awesome. Have they told you how it ends yet? I know 5 is the end.
Yes, I know how it ends.
Okay, all right. Okay, we'll get there. We'll get there.
We'll circle back.
Yeah.
The Orville's a hit at Comic Book, man. We love that show, and Seth keeps saying there might be more. Have you talked to him about that at all yet?
I mean, I know, well, he's in Ted World right now, right? You know what I mean? So like, he's giving space for that. But I know that I know he had a lot of fun, and I know that he was challenged, you know, like as an actor, to, you know, work on the Orville, and I think that was really good for him, and I think he thinks it was really good for him, and I know he's really excited about it. And you know, like he always says, you know, it's not a dead stick, you know. So I think that there has been like a lot of rumblings, and certainly before the strike there was like I was waiting for a call, but like I think there's some retooling, and then the TED, but like I definitely, if you know, I'm not inside his mind, but like just my conversations with him, it's still very much alive in his world, and it's up to him. But like I certainly, you know, would love, you know, to go back to it, you know.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, right. Fingers crossed.
Last thing for you, after the end of this movie, I'm like, I need the next one tomorrow. Like, I need Wes and everybody to get back to work. Has Wes kind of come to you, Freya, and said like, hey, here's kind of a roadmap of where we're going, or is it kind of one movie at a time he's giving you for this Apes franchise?
You know what, one movie at a time, I think, but I think they obviously, like, everyone's in the hope for more. I mean, it ends on such a kind of question mark. I think we want to know the answers.
Wes, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is great, man. Congratulations.
Oh, cool. Awesome. That's good.
I feel like coming into this, like I talked to the actors about this, they kind of had those Andy Serkis-sized shoes to fill.
Yeah.
And you have the Matt Reeves, you know, shoes to
totally.
fill, which it's no easy task, but you do such a good job of
That's great.
Creating an incredible new starting point. And I want the next movie now, but we'll talk about that.
We tried. We tried very hard.
But what were the kind of the first things you thought, like, this is the checklist, this is the first thing we have to get right to make a good movie here?
Well, I've said this before, but I was hesitant when I was first asked about it, right? There was nothing. It was like, hey, what would you do next Planet of the Apes movie? There was nothing. And so I wasn't sure that there was a next movie, you know. I wasn't interested in making a part 4. That to me, if we were just to do another continuation, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 never works. Beginning, middle, end, closure, perfect.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we decided to do this, where there's still a tether to those other movies, but be our own thing. That's where I felt the freedom that we could go be our own thing and stand on our own 2 feet. And then it was just a question of, can we come up with a story that was worthy of telling? You know what I mean? That was a new chapter in this long legacy of movies that have been made over since 1968, right?
Yeah.
That was the challenge, you know. So will it work for audiences? I don't know. It's a different tone this time. It's a different kind of different set of characters, different type of story, a different look. You know, I'm a different filmmaker, so it's a different style to some degree, but we tried to share as much DNA as we could, not just the previous trilogy of movies that Matt did and Rupert before him, but all the way back to '68. We tried to feel like we're a part of this franchise, which we all love.
Oh,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? That was the goal. We'll see.
There's imagery, there's dialogue, there's things that hint to that really honor and reward you if you watch this more recent
I think that's
trilogy,
right.
and then they also go back to like, hey, here's everything that's still far down the line in terms of the story, but came even further back in our time.
Totally.
And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, we tried to do that. You know, we tried to exist in both places. We had the 2 pillars, the seeded trilogy, and we got the '68. And we're trying to be somewhere in the middle between those 2, you know.
I watched your short film Ruin, and I thought it was really cool because it's it has almost a similar look in terms of like that post-apocalyptic setting.
A beautiful setting.
Yeah, it's beautiful, like very green, very vibrant, and it also like it. There's no dialogue. There's a lot of that in Apes
just
as well.
Cinema.
Yeah, it is. It's just cinema. But in Apes, you also have to use the physicality of the characters. You know, they're talking more in this one, I think, than the previous films. But it's also a big part of this film. So I'd love to hear about starting like at a time with a short film like Ruin, and then the Maze Runner saga into this. Like it just feels like such a natural trajectory. Like what is it about you that's got you wanting to create these worlds and fill them with awesome characters?
I can't say that I deliberately let's do what's the next post-apocalyptic story to do. I didn't do that. So totally by chance. You know, it was obviously built into the Apes franchise, was built into the stories of the Maze Runner books, right? But I would say probably that Ruin and Apes have a closer connection because it's when people say dystopian, they think smoke and rust and and destruction. This is like beauty, in a weird way. It's like the peace of nature reclaiming the earth, but underneath, haunting below the surface is this terrible story of the end of humanity. You know what I mean? So it was fun to play with that stuff. I love the ideas of the world and everything. The Maze Runner movies were for me like a great training ground. Those 3 movies combined cost less than this one movie. You know what I mean? So the resources at stage now are massive. They're way bigger. Obviously the visual effects thing is just a whole different kind of component, different level on this thing. But I tried to learn, use what I learned from those movies and brought it to this one.
Yeah. You mentioned the visual effects. I think it's awesome that you're releasing the movie.
Yeah.
I saw this. The Blu-ray is going to have the performances of the actors before they were turned in. Talk to me about that decision because I think that's so cool. I love when Blu-rays have special features like that. I'm excited to see it.
I'm a fan of VFX. Unlike a lot of, the trend right now is it seem to like to, poo-poo VFX work. And I celebrate it, I think it's a tool like anything else. I think the work that these artists do, these storytellers do, should be appreciated more. Yeah, sure, there's bad VFX out there. There's bad photography out there too. And we don't kind of rail on cameras, you know what I mean? It's just a tool to tell a story. And I think people will be blown away to see what is actually, how these movies are created. I think there's this kind of mystique behind them of like there's a button that you say make ape or make human or make VFX, make pretty. It doesn't work that way. It's an incredible amount of craft and hard work and dedication that I think we should honor. There's a lot of people that work on these movies on the visual effects side of things, and that's not to say that all the on-set guys, my production designer and my DP and all these guys too. I mean, everyone should be kind of celebrated for their contribution on a movie like this. And I think just the visual effects component, I think, it's a key of these movies. You know what I mean? It would not be possible without them. So I want I want to show people just what it is that is done on these movies. And I think the magic still exists, because you look at it and you're like, my God, how is that possible?
Yeah.
That still exists. It's just, I don't know. For the geeks that like this stuff, they're going to love it, I think.
Oh, I can't wait to see it, because I mean, speaking of the VFX, there were shots in this movie that I look at and I'm like, no, that's just a real monkey. Like that guy, it looks so good. And I kind of was like, there were sequences that you'd have a character, like an ape character, so clearly in focus, looking incredibly real.
Yeah, sure.
And I was wondering, like, did you ever just look at a shot and say, they look so good, just hold it there a second longer? Because I felt like maybe...
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a few shots where it's like, guys, I cut too short. You have to go back and take the month or whatever it takes to give me another second, because it was too fast. There's definitely those choices. But also on top of that, there's about 30 to 35 minutes of full CG in the movie. Meaning everything is CG. That means every piece of bark, every leaf blowing in the wind is full CG. So that's new for this franchise. You know, there are sets we just could not build. It was not possible. We couldn't afford to do it. We didn't have time to do it. So it was, I hope, for the audiences, it'll just go right by them. They won't see that. Yeah. But I'm really proud of some of that stuff where it's like, you cannot tell. This is all CG.
So what was the line? Like, when were you like, okay, we need to go full CG for this part?
It depends, you know. Yeah. There's some nighttime stuff that's full CG. There's some stuff, the first 10 minutes of the movie are CG, full CG.
With like the nests and everything?
Yeah.
None of that was really there.
That's full CG.
Fooled me.
It's 100%.
That's impressive.
CG. It is really cool.
Compliments to the chef.
Exactly, right? It's fantastic what they do, man. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you're seeing the best visual effects work that, you know, at the top of their game, the best people in the business doing the best work they've ever done. And I want to showcase that. You know what I mean?
And you also, I mean, I know this is a lot of motion capture, which means rigs and dots and all that stuff, but you're putting people who are doing motion capture performances in water in several sequences in this movie.
Full CG too.
Because I was curious, like, how do you
There's
kind of do...
almost no CG water, no real water in the movie.
Oh, they were telling me over there they were getting hit with water turbines up their nose and stuff. Were they lying to me?
They're totally lying to you. But
Freya.
But Freya, no, anytime Freya was in the water, she was in the water.
Oh, okay.
But even then, that water got replaced most of the time.
What were one of the like more challenging? Is it the trees and like the backdrops?
Water,
is it the water? Because water is so reflective. And
we
like
could not have done water if they hadn't done a major kind of R&D on Way of Water Avatar. And we took that and went further with it. But yeah, all the water is, we didn't shoot on the beach. I mean, well, that's true. We shot on the beach, but we didn't shoot on the coastline with the other water stuff and the waves and the, yeah, I mean, I don't know how much to give away, but the VFX will say it all.
I mean, it's that honestly, hearing these insights from you makes me appreciate the movie even more, because I was so fooled
Hopefully
by
people know. Like,
that's incredible.
You know, say the ending there, it's full CG. You know, everything is full CG. Even the setting itself. You know what I mean? It's pretty stunning.
I feel like maybe this story is setting up sort of a trilogy that represents the Empire Strikes Back of the Apes franchise as a whole. That's what I mean, dude. I don't want.
That would be the bar to hit, right? Or Dawn. Dawn is kind of like the Empire Strikes Back of that trilogy to me. You know?
Yeah, but this was like, if you did a whole trilogy of this story, it could be that as a saga itself. Yeah. Where do you kind of? I know you've talked about how you see this as a trilogy. Where do you kind of see this? Disney calls tomorrow and they're like, hey, we want another one. Good to go. Let's do it. How long does it take, and where do you kind of see that going? If, for what you can share.
I mean, it'll take as long as it takes. I don't think, fortunately, because of this franchise is important to the studio, we'll get it right. It's like we did on this one. Took our time and got it right. Hopefully, people think that.
I think so.
It takes time, the development itself, and my big thing is, you know, I do not want to go into prep when the script's not done. I've had to do that in the past. Nothing good comes from that. That's one of the biggest things that movies could be doing right now, is to stop doing that. We'd save a ton of money. You know what I mean? So we'll make sure, I think, on this one that we are in a good shape. Fortunately, we were thinking a lot about these questions when we were developing this script. You know, so we have an idea where we want to go, and there's lots of room for great drama. You know, literally doors have opened at the end of this movie that hopefully reveal a much larger world that we get to explore in this movie. Full of drama, full of conflict, all that kind of stuff. Fingers crossed, we'll see.
I think that the question is, how many more words can fit before of the Planet of the Apes?
None. That's true. It is hard to come up with these movies, but for anyone out there, there's no of the. It's just two of those or for the. That's it.
Yeah.
It's just one word of the Planet of the Apes. That's the way its titles work. And it has since 1970. So
I'm gonna go on record here just so I have this on video. I feel like maybe we're on our way to like maybe a fall of the Planet of the Apes.
Ah, yes.
But we'll see.
Winter of the Planet of the Apes.
Oh wait. Oh, okay. It could be. Yeah. See, there's plenty.
They took Conquest. That was a great one. Conquest is a great title. but we can't use that one. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Empire of the Planet of the Apes.
So
That was my original title.
Oh, was it Conquest of the Planet of the Apes?
Empire of the Planet.
Oh, Empire of the Planet of the Apes.
But it was just we couldn't do that.
Well, Kingdom made sense because it
That's
was
right, yeah.
it ended up making sense. When Matt Reeves wrapped up his Apes saga, he went on and made like a definitive take on Batman. And your next project, you're gonna go do, I think, is gonna be a pretty definitive take on the Legend of Zelda.
Let's hope.
And I'm sure it's something you can't talk too much about yet, but I'd love to hear like, what does that mean to you? What are you hoping to accomplish with Legend of Zelda as a film?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up on playing that game since I was a kid. You know, it's super important to me. I mean, that transported me to like worlds, you know, that occupy my imagination forever. It's part of my DNA. You know what I mean? So I'm a giant fan, and so I'm gonna approach it that way.
Yeah.
You know, and try to give people what they want, but try to make something great, something worthy of the property.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's kind of all I can do.
I talked about how you use physicality to tell story. Is Link gonna talk?
A or B, C, you know, pick. I'll just have like the game. You just have like little dialogue boxes pop up in the movie, and you pick which one you want of what he says. Because Link does communicate to villagers all over through the game. You just don't hear his voice.
That's all. So I just got to do the experience of becoming an ape, and
cool.
I would love to hear about, because there seems to be like kind of a standard, like there's kind of like there's been so many studies of the animals in our world and how they move in the parts of their body that are attached, which means like you have to move your hips with your shoulders and all of that.
Yeah.
Who would you say kind of brought the most personality to the movement that you wanted to make sure helps define their character with that physicality I've been talking about?
That's a good question. The truth is, like, I'll sometimes see our performance selects. I'll see just the skeleton rig, where I don't see the character rig or anything, or it's just a generic ape. I can tell which actor is which.
Wow.
I can usually say, oh, that was Lydia. Oh, that was Kevin. Or, oh, that was Owen. I can tell because they bring so much personality to their own movements. You know, it's really stunning, actually. Yeah, it's cool.
That's really cool.
So they all did a great job, and they all have the unique challenges, different lengths of arms and all that kind of stuff, but they brought their own thing to their characters, which is all I could ask for, you know.
And in bringing all those characters, as you mentioned, this is all new characters to this saga.
Yeah.
Noah is he's the protagonist from the ape perspective of this new story. He's so honest and pure, and I feel like that's almost...
That you almost see corrupted by the end.
Right, so it's like that evolution, right? Because you have Freya's Nova character, who is not quite, like a bit more gray.
Yes, right.
So I'd love to hear about, you know, do you feel like you're really just reflecting human evolution through the story of these apes a bit? Is that something you want to be doing?
Yeah, that is what you're seeing, you know. That's why the choice of where we kind of set these apes on their course through to civilization, you know what I mean? We're seeing kind of a mirror of what we went through as a species, but they're going through it much faster.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you're right. Owen was very consciously a blank slate that got to be influenced by the various things around him and rediscover a world and lost knowledge, you know, all that stuff. So he is changed forever by the end of this movie, and he's going to take forward all the things he's learned into, you know, a new frontier, new waters to have to navigate. You know, so. I look forward to. Hopefully, we'll get a chance to continue on. But there's a lot of great stuff in store. Hopefully, for these characters, you know.